In 1637, Puritan churches of the Massachusetts Bay Colony put Anne Hutchison on trial, telling her, "You have stepped out of your place." She had dared giving religious instruction to men as well as women. Such teaching was not fitting for your sex. In 1967, Catherine V. Switzer stepped out of her place to become the first woman to run in the Boston Marathon. The marathon's director, outraged at her audacity, darted onto the course and literally tried to shove her out of the race. But her boyfriend threw him a body block, so she was able to avoid her attacker and ultimately become the first woman to finish the Boston Marathon. In the case of Mary Magdalene, the church officials figuratively pushed her off the resurrection scene in the Gospel of John and resituated her in the story of an unnamed sinful woman in Luke's Gospel. The Magdalene's place in Christianity, it seemed, was not as a disciple of the crucified and risen Jesus, sent to bear witness to the resurrection, but as a repentant prostitute. Over the ages, many legends and myths made the Magdalene a larger-than-life figure, often as a voluptuous woman, evoking the dangers of female sexuality. The many variations of her mistaken identity have so shaped the imagination that too few today know her by her rightful title, the Apostle to the Apostles. Tragically, her mistaken identity also veiled women's leadership in the early communities of Jesus' followers. To restore Mary of Magdala to her rightful place, we need to probe what the Gospels say of her. Two texts are particularly important. Luke 8, 1-3, speaks of a group of women traveling with Jesus who had been cured of evil spirits and infirmities. Of Mary, Luke said, 7 demons had gone out. In the world of antiquity, unclean spirits or demons or evil spirits were simply a language that sought to name the inexplicable, to identify conditions that ravaged people's lives. The evangelists depict Jesus as a healer to whom people who were possessed were drawn. What was it that possessed Mary Magdalene? Luke's detail about the 7 demons suggests a disturbance not easily dislodged, perhaps something like severe depression. We might imagine that the Magdalene's healing happened over the course of time, maybe over months, as Jesus worked with her, drawing from her whatever had kept her from living into her full humanity. Hers was the discipleship of a wounded healer. A second key text is from the Gospel of John, chapter 20, verses 1-18. Here, Mary encounters the risen Christ at the tomb, initially mistaking him as the gardener, only to recognize him as her teacher when he calls her name. He sends her to tell the disciples the astonishing news of his resurrection. We need to reclaim the Mary Magdala of these 2 powerful texts. We need to let her step into her rightful place as the apostle to the apostles, as a leader in the early community of Jesus' followers, as a wounded healer who bore witness to the power of the Spirit, and as the first to proclaim the good news of the resurrection. Jesus may have chosen the apostle, Mary of Magdala, to play a vital role in his community. But later generations seem to have found this too radical, too countercultural. So Mary of Magdala, apostle to the apostles, had to be put into her place, lest women be seen as equals in making known the gospel. Refashioning Mary as a repentant prostitute kept women from stepping out of their place. So sorrow tinges our remembrance. The Magdalene's mistaken identity calls us to lament all that the church has lost over the ages by its repression of women's leadership. A repression that continues to constrict the church and to betray the ministry of Jesus. And yet, we live in hope. Just as today we can't imagine a Boston or New York City marathon or any marathon without women, may the day come soon that we can't imagine the church's apostles without women alongside men. May we let the apostle Mary of Magdala step into her rightful place in our church and in our world. Let us celebrate her as wounded healer, as evangelist, and witness to the risen one. And may the apostle of apostles continue to bear witness to Christ's resurrection.